Most shooters at some stage want to fit a scope to their rifle, so for this airgun workshop I'm going to show you how to do it. First of all, you need to start off with a set of quality mounts. Quality mounts usually have hexagonal bolt heads, which makes things a whole lot easier. So, take your scope, obviously remove the mount tops and drop your scope in like that. There are two basic things to remember when putting the scope into the mounts. Firstly, the objective barrel housing and the turret housing mustn't touch the mounts. If the gun recoils and the scope happens to move in the mounts, then you could do the scope quite a lot of damage. The second thing is obviously make sure you have the scope the right way up. I've seen it quite a few times where people have had the vertical adjustment on the horizontal. All you have to do is lift the caps up, just take them off, have a look and make sure that up is on the top. Simple as that. Take the top of the scope mount, just plop it on there, take a bolt, screw it in. Now there's the hex driver. You don't need to over tighten these, but you don't actually need to nip them up at all at this stage because you're going to have to adjust the scope in the mounts soon anyway. So there's the other one, going in alternate diagonals. Again, just whiz it up. It's just to keep the scope on the mount. Do this for the rest of the bolts and don't cross thread anything. Right, that's bolt number 8. Now notice the scope can still move in its mounts. That's just what you want. The next stage is to introduce the rifle. Right, just drop that on the dovetails and just nip these up just finger tight. Again, you're going to have to adjust this. Now here's the fun part. You've got to shoulder the rifle and just make sure that the scope comes up to line with your eye. Just make sure everything's you've got a nice clean sight picture. Now that is actually perfect for me, so I'm going to keep it there. Now these are the bolts you do at first, so you get the mounts in the right place. Now those are tight. Again, shoulder the rifle, go into your normal shooting position, and what you've got to do is make sure that the scope, the crosshairs on the scope are all lined up, so they're nice and vertical. Because there's nothing worse than having and sighting everything in and then finding your crosshairs are actually on the cant slightly. Again, I seem to have done it absolutely perfectly. So they are just right. Now here comes the fun part. This is the part where you can spend the next half an hour getting it wrong. What you need to do is take your hex driver again and do it alternatively. If you've ever done a cylinder head on a car, this is very, very similar. Just give it a couple of turns. Now that was actually quite high. Just give that a couple of turns. That's just starting to bite. Go to its opposite one, diagonally. Again, just come down again, just so it's starting to be tight. And I usually come down to this one. Again, just tight. And you do these for all 8, just a little bit. And then you have another look through the scope, because it can move. If you over tighten it, you can end up dragging this side of the mount down and pulling the scope over. So just do everything just a little bit and then have another look. Just being nipped up. Just biting. There we go. Right, here we go. Another look. You might want to take a little bit more time over this, but this is looking about right. Yes, we're still in line. It's there's no cant on those crosshairs. So again, give them another little bit more. Right, that's the final bolt. All I've got to do now is just check that the crosshair is still vertical, and it is. That's fine. That'll do me. Of course, this being a Viroc, you have a facility for an arrestor stud. The arrestor stud is just simply a bolt that travels down vertically through the mount and locates in one of these holes that travel up and down the cylinder. Had I actually had that and wanted to use it, then I would have had to have put the scope mount on the rifle first and then followed the locking up procedure as normal. So, well, that's all finished. So it's off to the range to zero the scope in.